Well, target Israel, did you ever think you would live to see, in your lifetime, my lifetime, did you ever think you would live to see Israel become such a target?
On the one hand, no. Certainly not in light of America's long history with Israel, commitment to Israel. On the other hand, I teach college students, and I have to deal with that postmodern mindset all the time where they love to favor who they think are the victims in given situations. And unfortunately, the Palestinians have really painted themselves as the victims, even though they shoot thousands of rockets at Israel and attack them constantly. Anytime Israel tries to defend herself, they immediately scream, oh, we're the victim, when they're really the perpetrator. On the other hand, from a prophetic standpoint, I would have expected this eventually. Hopefully not in my lifetime, but eventually. If America's one of the nations that stands back at the time of the War of Gog and Magog and does not come to the defense of Israel, then there has to be a change politically and morally in the mind and soul of America to allow that to happen.
Well, and I want to reference Gog-Magog, that Ezekiel 38-39 war, in just a minute or two, because you write about it in this new book, Target Israel. But, people write me expressing real serious concern about Israel's welfare. And obviously she's been abandoned by her primary ally, America. And she's actually, as we speak, she's reaching out to the Saudis, to the Emirates, and some other Arab nations, which is ultimate irony, I think. Yet God promised that once he brings her back to the land, they will not be cast away again, though they're going to certainly go through some things during the tribulation. But you would concur, would you not, that people who are writing very, very concerned about Israel's welfare probably don't have to be quite that concerned?
Well, in the sense that God will ultimately come to their rescue, no. I mean, I think we have a moral responsibility as believers to love them, pray for them, encourage them, help them, and speak truth to them. But at the same time, we recognize that eventually only God can deliver them. And the psalmists understood that in the Psalms. The prophets of Israel understood that ultimately it's not by sword or spear that God delivers his people, but by the power of his Spirit. And God has made a commitment to them, a covenant commitment that he will not abandon. So in that sense, I have great hope for the future, but the process that will bring them to that point can be very difficult.
The Iranian deal, and as a result of that deal, which took place back in July, we're actually watching Iran and Russia become closer allies. Not at all surprising.
No, in light of that Ezekiel prophecy, again, not at all. If Magog is Russia and Persia is Iran, and those ancient names are properly identified with those modern countries, one would have expected that, and that's what biblical prophetic scholars have been saying for the last 100 years, that there would eventually be an alliance between Russia and Iran, and that alliance would ultimately target Israel. And we're seeing the seeds of that beginning in our own lifetime. If nothing were happening, we might wonder, well, is this ever going to take place? But it's accelerating all the time, and Russia is certainly showing herself that she's no real friend of Israel or America.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that in the book you do spend several pages talking about the Gog-Magog, Ezekiel 38-39. Is this when you feel that God will deal with Islam, would be on the mountains of Israel?
I think it will be. I think Islam is struggling right now in some areas with just the whole modernization and secularization of the world. They oppose that, they're against that, and unfortunately, America sends all the wrong things into the Middle East in our movies, our television programs, our internet communications, etc., and they see immorality, alcoholism, all these things out of control, things that they're opposed to. So I can understand why they would think possibly America's the great Satan, but there's no basis for hating Israel to the point that they want to see them eliminated and destroyed. You have almost 1 billion Arabs surrounding a little nation of 7 million people is all. You've got 5 million square miles of Arabic territory surrounding a little country of 9,000 square miles. I mean, there's like a little drop in the ocean of hostility, and Israel has to constantly defend herself just to survive, and that's, I think, exactly what the Bible predicted about the future. If there's going to be a global religion one day controlled by the Antichrist, obviously Islam in its present form is not going to participate in such a religion.
That's
Something
true.
has to happen to bring them to their knees, and I do think it will be in the devastation of that war that when they finally lose, then they'll realize they don't really have a card to play in the final economic and political and social drama of the end times.